Welcome to Come Get Woo Woo. We're your hosts, Becky and Ro, here to hold space for the unseen, the unspoken, and the deeply felt. This is a place for seekers, for those who sense that there's more, for those who hear between the words, feel beyond the room, and know without knowing why.
Together, we'll explore the language of spirit, the clarity of your clairs, and the signs that rise up when you're ready to notice. You're not imagining it, you're remembering it. This is Come Get Woo Woo.
What if the parts of yourself you try hardest to avoid are actually the parts asking to be healed? What if the triggers, jealousy, and fear, or even the traits you judge in other people, are not random flaws, but mirrors pointing towards something hidden beneath the surface? And what if the shadow realm isn't the dark place filled with evil, but a doorway? If you've started noticing a reoccurring pattern, felt emotionally triggered by something small, then this episode's for you. Hey, woo-woo seekers, welcome back to Come Get Woo-Woo with Becky and Ro. I'm Becky.
And I'm Ro, and today we're stepping into a layer of the human experience that exists right here, overlapping with the same world you already live in. The same streets, the same kitchen, the same Tuesday. We are moving into the shadow realm. The shadow realm isn't some dark mythical space hidden outside of you, and it's not another dimension you fall into. It is closer than that. It lives just beneath your conscious awareness, operating as an underside of your everyday life. It's the loyal waiting room where your unprocessed emotions, suppressed memories, and old survival patterns continue to live. Not because you choose to keep them there, but because at some point they weren't safe to fully feel, express, or understand. In this episode, we're going to look at how the shadow speaks to you in the ordinary, everyday moments of your life, through the sudden overreaction that feels too big for the moment, the repeating relationship patterns that keep finding you, and the self-sabotage that pulls you right back when you're building momentum. We'll show you why these aren't flaws or proof that you're broken. They are open files in your system reaching out toward resolution and completion. We're also going to explore the practical, gentle path of integration. We'll talk about how to stop fighting yourself, how to shift from judgment to curiosity, and how to decode your own inner dialect. Whether the shadow is speaking to you through body sensations, sudden knowing, or clairvoyant imagery. This work isn't about becoming darker. It's about becoming whole. The shadow realm has been holding your protection and keeping your hidden gifts safe for a long time. Today, we're going to see if you're ready to turn toward what's underneath, reclaim your energy, and finally bring those pieces home.
Before we step through the veil into the shadow realm, we want to pause for just a moment. If something in these conversations has helped you see yourself more clearly, or made you feel a little less alone in the parts of yourself you're still learning to understand, we truly appreciate you following the podcast and leaving a review.
Those follows, reviews, and subscriptions help this podcast reach other seekers, people understanding at the edge of their own inner doorway, wondering if they're ready to look deeper. Every bit of support helps us continue creating these spaces for reflection, healing, curiosity, and truth. So thank you for walking these realms with us. The perspectives shared in this episode are explored through a spiritual and seeker-based lens. Our intention is to inspire curiosity, reflection, and conversation as we journey through the concepts of the shadow realm together. This content is shared for entertainment and personal exploration purposes and is not intended to replace professional psychological, medical, or mental health guidance. Becky, can you tell us what the shadow realm is?
In our episodes on the underground and the suburbs, we showed you that the underworld wasn't a place to fear. It was more like a quiet workshop running alongside your Tuesday. But here's what we didn't say out loud. Not everything goes there. Some things never cross the threshold. Some things stay on the surface, performing, looping, pulling at you. And when those things collect long enough, they become something else entirely. This is called the shadow realm. The shadow realm isn't some dark place hidden outside of you. It's not another dimension you fall into. It's closer than that. It's a layer of human experience that exists right here, overlapping the same world you already live in. The same streets, the same kitchen, the same Tuesday. But instead of being beneath the earth, it lives just beneath your awareness, the underside of your everyday life. It is where unprocessed emotions go, where suppressed memories settle, where old identities, survival patterns, and energetic imprints continue to live beneath the surface. Not because you chose to keep them there, but because at some point they weren't safe to fully feel, express, or understand. The grief you rushed past, the anger you swallowed, the version of yourself you abandoned to be accepted, the fear you learned to hide, all of it leaves an imprint. And the shadow realm is where those unfinished pieces wait, not to punish you, but to be witnessed, understood, and integrated. Its relationship to the living world is constant and mutual. The two breathe together. When somebody is carrying too much unresolved weight, the shadow realm grows closer. Its edges bleed into everyday life. You can feel it without ever knowing its name, the heaviness that won't lift, the pattern that keeps repeating, the reaction that seems bigger than the moment deserves. Those aren't random. They're echoes of something unresolved asking to be seen differently. And the inverse is just as true. The moment you stop avoiding the underneath, the moment you choose honesty or presence, or simply sit with a part of yourself that never got a voice, the boundary forms back up. Not because the shadow realm is defeated, but because it no longer needs to press so close. This is why the shadow work isn't about becoming darker. It's about becoming more whole. The moment you stop running from what's underneath, you begin reclaiming the energy that was tied up, holding it there. And maybe that's the most human part of all of this. The shadow realm is not proof that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that something inside you survived by going quiet. Ro, do you want to go over how the shadow realm shows up in everyday life?
Oh, I would love to go over it.
Okay.
Most people never encounter the shadow realm in a dramatic fashion. There's no sudden darkness, no obvious sign that something underneath is running the show. Instead, it shows up quietly in the small moments, the repeated moments, the moments that feel slightly too big for what just happened. This is how you know the shadow is speaking. Not in the extraordinary, in the ordinary. You're in a meeting and someone interrupts you, and suddenly you're not just annoyed, you're furious. Or someone forgets to text you back and you spiral into something that feels a lot like abandonment. Or a small criticism lands like an attack. The overreaction is one of the shadow realm's clearest signals. When the response is bigger than the moment deserves, it usually means the moment reminded you of something older. The present situation just knocked on the door that was never properly closed. You're not just reacting to what happened, you're reacting to everything that felt like this before. The time you weren't heard, the time you were left, the time your worth felt conditional. The anger is real, the hurt is real, but its roots go deeper than today. Then we have relationships. Different person, different city, different year, and somehow the same dynamic. you attract the same emotional, unavailable person. You find yourself shrinking in the same way. You end up overgiving or over controlling or disappearing or being the one who always leaves first. The shadow realm doesn't interfere with your relationships from the outside, it shapes them from the inside through what you came to believe about yourself and others long before you had the language to question it. If you learned early that love comes with conditions, you will keep finding people who confirm that belief. Not because you're broken, but because the unresolved piece is still looking for the resolution. It keeps recreating the scene, hoping this time the ending will be different. The pattern isn't the problem, the pattern is the message. Then we have self-sabotage. The promotion comes and suddenly you stop performing. The relationship gets good and you find a way to complicate it. The creative project builds momentum and you go quiet for 3 weeks. From the outside, it looks like fear of failure, but often it's a fear of something more disorienting. Fear of success, of visibility, of becoming someone the old version of you didn't have permission to be. The shadow holds the identities you abandoned to survive. If you learn that being too much made you a target, or that wanting things led to disappointment, or that standing out wasn't safe, then success becomes a threat, not a reward. The self-sabotage isn't a weakness. It's an old protection mechanism that hasn't gotten the update yet. Then we have negative self-talk loops. It sounds like you. It uses your vocabulary, your reference, your specific insecurities, but the negative self-talk loop is almost never original. It's inherited from a parent, a classroom, a relationship, a season of your life when you needed to make yourself smaller to get through. And at some point, you observed the verdict about who you are, and that verdict became the narrator. You always do this. You're too much. You're not enough. Who do you think you are? The loop lives in the shadow realm because it was never examined, only repeated. The work isn't to silence the voice, it's to stop assuming it's telling the truth. And then we have emotional triggers. A trigger is present moment experience that activates a past moment wound. The smell that brings back a whole era. The tone of voice that collapses you back to childhood. The specific kind of silence that means something completely different to you than it does to the person across from you. The triggers aren't overreactions. They're accurate reactions, accurate to what you've experienced before. The nervous system doesn't file things neatly by date. It files them by feeling. When something in the present matches the emotional fingerprint of something unresolved, the body responds to both at once. This is why you can know something isn't a big deal and still feel like it's the end of the world. You're not being irrational, you're being human. I probably hit most of those there.
I am feeling so called out right now.
Yes.
Because I have experienced every single one of them. Somehow, some way in my life. I think I experience less now, but there are certain times where it's like, why? Why was that such a big deal? Jenna and I actually had a conversation. She did something and it was the stupidest thing, but actually it was a action that she did to me. It was nothing, but it literally tailspinned on me not too long ago. And she and I had to talk about it, but I said, please don't do that again. It's like you're putting me in my place. But my ex used to do it. I was like, oh my God, why am I so unhinged about this thing? It was, it totally caught me off guard. So yeah, been called out on all of them. And as you were talking, I was like, yep, check. Oh crap, check, And I do notice that sometimes I do self-sabotage, and I never looked at it the way that you just described it.
I'm guilty of that too. Self-sabotage, or probably more negative self-talk.
The words that we speak matter. Your mind and your body will make your words come true. Be careful of the words that you think. All of that matters.
I agree. I love that. And I think you've mentioned that before here as well. So, yeah, 100%.
I'm sure I have, because it's like an ongoing preaching on that. I do feel very strongly about it. So I'm going to go over what all of these have in common.
Sounds great.
All right. So the overreaction, the pattern, the self-sabotage, the loop, even the trigger, none of these are flaws. None of them are proof that you are too broken to fix or too far gone to reach. They are all, every single one of them, the shadow realm doing the only thing it knows how to do. It's asking to be seen. It will keep knocking through the same argument you keep having, through the same ceiling you keep hitting, through the same ache that shows up at 2 a.m. when the world gets too quiet. Not to punish you, not to hold you back, but because something inside of you survived by going quiet. And it has been waiting for a moment. You're finally ready to face it. Once you understand how the shadow shows up, the next question changes everything. Why does it surface at the worst moments? The answer is not what most people expect. The shadow realm was never working against you. It was built to protect you. Before it was anything else, the shadow was a shelter. Think about when these pieces first went quiet. It wasn't random. It happened at the exact moment when feeling something fully would have been too much, too dangerous, too lonely, too overwhelming for the version of you that existed then. The child who learned that anger made the room unsafe, the teenager who discovered that vulnerability meant exposure, the person who found out that needing too much drove other people away. Something inside of you made a decision, not a conscious one, not a calculated one, but a deeply intelligent one. It said, I will hold this. I will carry it somewhere you don't have to look at it right now. I will keep you functional, and I will keep you safe. The shadow realm was a place that said yes to all of it. Every emotion that was too large at the moment, every truth that couldn't yet be spoken. This is important to sit with. What you've been calling your damage was once your protection. The walls that feel like they're keeping people out were originally built to keep you intact. The shadow realm doesn't form because something went wrong. It formed because something inside of you was wise enough to know that you could and couldn't survive at the same time. The protection made sense then. The work now is recognizing when you no longer need it the same way. It's trying to complete something unfinished. The shadow realm is not a graveyard. It is more like an open file. When the experience moves through you fully, when you grieve completely, process the anger, feel the fear, and come out the other side, it's completed. It becomes a memory. It becomes wisdom. It becomes a part of your story without continuing to write it for you. But when something gets interrupted, when the emotion gets swallowed before it finished moving, when the movement closes before the wound does, it doesn't disappear. It stays open. An open file doesn't close on its own. They wait. They surface. They create conditions of the original movement again and again because the system is still looking for resolution. Time doesn't close the open file. Completion does. The shadow realm isn't punishing you with repetition. It's showing you what still needs to be finished. Every loop, every trigger, every moment that feels older than it is, that is not you being stuck. It's the unfinished thing, still reaching toward resolution with the only tools it has. I had a conversation today, and that conversation very much led to this. Healing starts when you no longer are the story that you tell. It's just part of your past. That's when the healing starts.
I agree. Yep. I think it's important too to notice your triggers. Oh, why did that get to me? Or why do I keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again?
Well, and that's what I did, because once I said that to Jenna, to like, dude, don't do that anymore, and explain to her why. And I then could explain it to myself, because at first I didn't know why that was so bothersome. And then I realized what it was like. It took power away from me. So I needed to get the power back.
And it's good you explained it in a way that could make her understand that, oh, mom is not just being silly.
Right. She didn't brush it aside like it was nothing.
Right.
She recognized it was important to me, so then it was important to her. And I think the validation that she gave me through that healed a bit of it.
So I'm going to go over trying to bring yourself back.
Okay.
At its deepest level, the shadow realm is not just holding your pain, it's holding your wholeness. Every piece that went quiet took something with it. The anger took your boundaries. The grief took your ability to fully open again. The version of yourself you abandoned to be accepted took your authenticity. The fear you learned to hide took your permission to be honest about what's real. This is what the shadow work eventually reveals. The shadow isn't just full of wounds, it's full of you. The parts of you that went underground didn't only carry what hurt, they carried gifts, creativity, depth, passion, power that felt too risky to bring into the light. Every time something from the shadow realm rises into your awareness, it isn't just asking you to look at what's broken. It's asking you to reclaim what's been waiting. So what is the shadow realm really? It is the most loyal thing inside you. It held what you couldn't. It protected what was too fragile. It kept the door open on every unfinished piece, refusing to let anything be permanently lost, waiting for the moment you were finally ready to return. It was never the enemy. It was the part of you that said, not yet, but I'll keep it safe until you're ready. The shadow realm doesn't need to be defeated. It needs exactly what it's always been asking for: to be met, to be understood, and finally, to be integrated.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
We keep on doing these episodes, and kind of the theme that I keep coming back to, how hard we are on ourselves. And if we just take the time to accept us for exactly who we are and not who we think that we should be or who we perceive ourselves wanting to be, how much happier we would be.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, it's making me look at different areas differently.
Like what?
Like noticing your emotional patterns or the loops that you go in, or even the relationship patterns. Oh, I recognize that piece. Yes, I had 3 of the same type of people.
No, I 100% agree, because I also am noticing certain patterns that I cling to, we'll say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into what the shadow realm is not?
I absolutely will. Now, the word shadow carries weight. It brings up images of darkness and danger and things hidden away. And if you grew up believing darkness meant evil or weakness meant shame, then the shadow realm probably sounds like something you should avoid. But the shadow realm is not what most people think it is. It is not evil. It is not some corrupt part of you working against you. What often looks like self-destruction on the outside is usually self-protection on the inside. And the old survival system still trying to keep you safe, it just has outdated information. You are not broken because you have a shadow. You're human. Everyone who has ever loved, lost, hidden, adapted, or survived has one. The shadow realm is not where broken people go. It is where honest people eventually arrive. And once you stop treating the shadow like an enemy, healing begins to look different because the shadow is not standing in the way of growth. It is often the doorway into it. The parts of ourselves we avoid the longest are usually the very places asking to be seen. The shadow realm is also not permanent. The grief, the fear, the old beliefs, and the version of yourself you buried to be accepted. None of that is sealed forever. The shadow realm is not a prison. It is a waiting room for the unfinished parts of you still hoping to return home. And when those hidden parts begin surfacing, it can feel overwhelming. Old emotions return, old patterns become visible, but the shadow is not all of you. It's only one layer. Beneath it is a part of you that is already whole, already worthy, and already enough, which is why this work was never meant to be done entirely alone. So many shadows were formed in isolation, in moments where there were no safe witness for what you felt. Healing often begins when something hidden is finally seen with compassion instead of judgment. So no, the shadow realm is not evil. It is not your enemy. It is not permanent, and it is not entirely who you are. It is the place where the forgotten parts of yourself wait to be reclaimed. And the moment you stop fighting the shadow, you stop fighting yourself. It makes it a little bit easier to do the work when you don't think of it as like a dark and dreary place where, yes, it's going to be hard, but it's not going to be permanent, and it may be devastating for a bit, but it's not forever.
No, what I was thinking of? Peter Pan.
Okay.
How Wendy was trying to sew on Peter Pan's shadow.
Oh, yeah.
So he wasn't really doing it alone. He had help. So I think it's good to find the help to work with you when you're doing the shadow work.
I think you're absolutely right. Isolation is your worst enemy.
Mm.
And it kind of goes back to when I was talking about lemons in last episode. The world's going to give you lemons, and you just hope to God that you have people around that have the ingredients for lemonade. So keeping the people that are around you informed is actually very important.
Oh, and also explaining yourself like you explained to Jenna what it meant to you, and explaining yourself in a way that other people could hear is important.
Definitely. I didn't face it alone. It didn't feel as scary to tell her about it. And she totally accepted. And I think once you start doing that and you're accepted, then you're more likely to do it more and do it again.
Or what are you afraid of? We did come up with ways where you can work with it, the shadow, in practical ways.
Okay. I'd love to hear some of them.
If you made it this far, something in you is already doing the work, because awareness is where it begins. Not a dramatic breakdown, not a radical life overhaul, not a retreat in the mountains, though none of those things are wrong. The beginning of the shadow work is quieter than most people expect. It starts with a single, simple shift. Turning toward instead of away. That's the door. Start with noticing, without judgment. The first practice isn't fixing anything. It isn't even understanding anything yet. It's simply learning to notice. When the overreaction comes, Pause. When the familiar heaviness settles in, pause. When you catch yourself in a loop, the pattern, the story you've told yourself 100 times, pause. Not to stop it, not to shame it, just to see it. Oh, there it is. That single breath of space between the feeling and the response is where everything becomes possible. Judgment closes that door. Curiosity opens it. The invitation is not to ask what is wrong with me, but to ask what is happening in me. The difference in those two questions is the difference between shame and understanding. You're not a problem to be solved. You are a person learning to listen.
Once you've noticed or named what's actually there, not the story around it, not who caused it, just the feeling itself, as honestly and simply as you can, in the statements of, I feel afraid, I feel humiliated, I feel small, I feel alone. This matters more than it sounds. The mind, when left unnamed, immediately converts feeling into action. An argument, a withdrawal, a spiral, a distraction. Naming interrupts the conversion. It brings the experience into language, and language gives you something to work with instead of something to swipe away. Research has shown that naming the emotion reduces its intensity. Putting a word to what you feel shifts brain activity away from pure reaction towards reflection. When you name what's there, you acknowledge its presence. An acknowledgement is the beginning of completion. You don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to say it perfectly. You just find an honest word and let it exist without immediately trying to make it go away. I love that one, by the way.
I do too. I didn't know that about the research part, and by just saying what you're feeling shifts it. So that's very interesting.
But it makes sense, though. It's kind of like you have a rubber band around it. Like I used it once when I tried to quit smoking for years and years ago. Anytime that you wanted a cigarette, you would snap the rubber band on your wrist, and that interrupts the thought.
I think it's a feeling, right? When you snap the...
Probably because you're associating it with a little bit of a pay attention snap. And I just had to get that one in.
So once you've named the feeling, there are two questions that can take you deeper, gently, without force, at whatever pace feels right. When have I felt this before? This question is a thread. Pull it softly and follow where it leads. The feeling you're having right now, the one that feels bigger than today, where does it live in your history? Once you can see that the reaction belongs to two moments, now and then, it loses some grip on the present. You're carrying something that deserves its own attention, separate from today. The next question is, what is this trying to show me? This question treats the shadow not as an instrument, but as a message. It assumes correctly that what's surfacing has a reason for surfacing, and it puts you in a posture of receiving rather than resisting. The answer won't always come immediately. Sometimes it arrives hours later, in the middle of something unrelated. Sometimes it comes as a quiet knowing rather than a clear thought. Sometimes it comes through a dream or a conversation or a line in a song that stops you cold. That's not a coincidence. That's the shadow realm responding to the fact that you finally asked. Those are great questions.
Mm-hmm. And definitely something that I will revisit.
Absolutely.
Not everyone processes the shadow the same way. This is worth pointing out because if you've ever felt like the standard advice doesn't quite fit how you experience things, there may be a reason for that. Some people feel their way through the shadow, emotional waves that move through the body without an obvious source. If this is how information tends to arrive for you, you may be naturally clairsentient. Trust the physical sensation as data. Let the feeling speak before you rush to interpret it. Some people know things suddenly and without explanation. A pattern becomes clear in an instant, not because you reasoned your way there, but because something simply landed, whole and complete. This is claircognizance, sudden inner knowing. Shadow work may come with you in flashes of recognition. Write those moments down before the analytical mind talks you out of them. And some people see, not with the physical eye, but the imagery, the symbols, the pictures that arrive during meditation or surface in dreams. This is clairvoyance. These images are a landscape the deeper self uses when words aren't enough. None of these ways is more advanced or more valid than others. They are simply different dialects of the same inner language. Find yours and trust it.
I like that the clairs are in here.
I think that clairs are important.
The clairs just helps you recognize where your information is coming. Even if you don't think you have any of these abilities, everybody does.
Yeah.
So I have a little practice. It doesn't have to be a ritual. It doesn't have to take an hour. It could look like this. You're in the middle of your day and something hooks you. An offhand comment, a look, a moment of being overlooked. And instead of immediately reacting or suppressing, you pause. You find the honest word for what just moved through you. You ask yourself when you felt it before. You stay with it just for a moment longer than you normally would. That's it. That's the practice. Some days it will go deeper. Some days that pause is all you have and all you need. Both are enough. Because the shadow work is not a sprint to some finish line where you will finally be healed and be free of all of it. It's an ongoing, lifelong, genuinely human practice of turning toward yourself with an increasing honesty and an increasing compassion. The goal is not to empty the shadow realm. The goal is to stop being afraid of what's in it. Be gentle with yourself in this. The shadow realm is formed because gentleness wasn't always available. You cannot heal a wound born from harshness by being harsh about it. The same compassion you would offer someone you love, the patience, the willingness to sit with them in the hard part, is what the shadow is asking you to offer yourself. Not perfectly, not all at once, just a little more than yesterday. And I love that because we don't give ourselves enough grace, enough permission to be, and enough patience with ourselves, you know?
I agree. They actually say that you're your harshest critic. It just flows brilliantly with what you just talked about because we are hardest on ourselves.
Yes, I'll be the first one to say I am my own worst critic.
That's why you do the negative talk. It becomes so common in everyday life. Most people don't even realize they're doing it. That negative talk or the self-sabotage, it becomes so natural that we don't even pay attention that we're doing it.
No, I agree with you.
So there are words we keep returning to. The one that sits at the end of every thread we've pulled, integration. But what does it actually mean? Not in theory, but in real life, on a real day, in a real moment between you and another person or you and yourself. Integration isn't an event. It isn't a breakthrough in a therapy session or a cathartic cry or a journal entry that finally says what you never been able to say. Those things can be part of it, but integration itself is quieter than any of that. Integration is what happens afterwards. So here's how it could work. A situation that used to send you into a spiral. You feel it arrive, you recognize its shape, and something in you stays steadier than before. Not because you're suppressing it, but because you're already sitting with what's underneath it. So when it shows up now, it has a little less charge, a little less power to pull you out of the present. You still feel it. Integration doesn't make you numb. If anything, it makes you more sensitive, more honest about what's actually moving through you, but the feeling no longer hijacks the response. That space, that breath of a room between feeling and reaction is integration, announcing itself. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives as a quiet moment where you realize, I used to do something different here, and I didn't do it this time. That is not small. That is everything. And I think that's important that we recognize even the small moments that you do something differently. What do they always say? That the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So anytime that you can change that result, even slightly, and do something different.
Oh, sort of like The Shining when Jack kept writing the same sentence over and over again.
I'm going to admit something. I've never watched that fully through.
No.
I am a baby. I can't. I was traumatized from Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Thank you, cousin Kevin. I obviously don't handle horror movies. Like, my kid is total opposite. She laughs at horror movies and I'm just like freaked out. And so give me a good rom-com and I'm happy. So I don't know what you're talking about, but go on, tell that story.
So he kept writing, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
I've heard that line. I had no idea where that came from.
Yeah, I think he typed it. I don't know. It's been a while. Because I believe they went there so he could write. And so that's all he wrote was all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And then he went a little.
Well, I know that story just, through years of watching clips every now and again. But yeah, I've never watched that movie fully. It's the same thing. There's a lot of movies that are horror movies that are classics that I have not watched because I'm too big of a baby to do it. Like, we were out here for Memorial Weekend, and what do I want to do is Never Ending Story, which is a feel-good movie. And Jenna's like, we should do a horror movie. And I'm like, no.
And me, I'm like, I avoid feel-good movies. Give me a good horror movie.
We really are the opposite at times, yes. Aren't we?
It's good. We need that balance.
I know that you looked into the ways to soften instead of react.
It's working when you soften instead of react, because reaction is the armor, the anger that covers the hurt, the withdrawal that covers the fear, and the performance that covers the grief. It was built for speed. It was never designed to be examined. It was designed to protect. Softening is something different entirely. Softening is what becomes possible when the thing underneath the reaction has been acknowledged, when the anger has been allowed to say what it actually meant, when the fear has been named instead of hidden. Once those things have been truly witnessed, not managed or suppressed, the armor becomes optional. And the moments when it becomes optional, you get to choose something else. Softening doesn't mean becoming passive or abandoning your boundaries. It means your response can now come from the present moment instead of from a wound that belongs to a different time. You can be honest without being defended, open without being unguarded. It means the conversation can actually reach you and you can actually reach back.
Another way that you can see that it's working is when you stay instead of try to escape. This one is perhaps the most telling of all. Watch where you used to leave, not physically necessarily, but internally. The moment a conversation got too close, the moment of feeling became too large, the moment the present asked something of you that the shadow said wasn't safe to give. That's where the escape happened. Into distraction, into busyness, into the phone, into the version of yourself that performs being fine. Integration shows up as the ability not to stay and suffer, not to white knuckle your way through something overwhelming, but to stay and be genuinely present in the moment that used to be too much, to sit with discomfort without immediately needing to resolve it, to be in a hard conversation without disappearing from it, to feel something fully without becoming an emergency. Staying is the evidence that the shadow realm no longer has to pull you back into the past in order to be heard, because the unfinished things have been getting finished, one honest moment at a time. And so the present, this moment, this conversation, this version of life finally has room to exist. You're still here fully. And that is what integration looks like from the inside. So there are changes that happen when integration happens. Not everything changes all at once, but things do change. The relationship that used to follow the familiar, painful script finds a different ending. The ceiling you kept hitting quietly lifts. The voice that narrated your unworthiness gets quieter. Not because you silenced it, but because you understood where it came from and stopped treating it as a truth. The energy tied up, holding the shadow at arm's length, comes back to you. And you use it differently, to create instead of cope, to connect instead of defend, to build the life the unintegrated parts of you were too afraid to believe were even possible. This is where the shadow realm was always pointing towards. Not the darkness for its own sake, but the wholeness, the kind that can only be reached by going through it, not around it.
Wow.
You know what it's reminding me of?
Oh, what?
It's reminding me of when we did our messages in motion, and I'm trying to think of the word, but you were the eagle and you were flying, and the perspective that you had was from a much higher ground, and I cannot think of what
Clarity.
word it was. Oh, yes. There it is. So the word clarity for you gave you a larger perspective, and that's what I keep on coming back to, is your interpretation of clarity.
Oh, very interesting. And you're right. As you take the moment to actually think, where did this little piece of anger come from? It gives you a bigger picture of where it came from, not from today, but from 6 years ago, or from that feeling from when you were a child. So it's given you clarity. Yes, I like that.
I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I did too. Definitely got a whole new perspective on the shadow realm itself.
Well, and I think everybody thinks of the shadow realm and it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there, because it is scary.
Well, I think I'm going to have to sit in the corner and cry somewhere. That's what I was thinking. I don't want to do that. I don't even like watching Goodfield movies.
So when I was kind of going through some of my shadowish phases and kind of working things out a couple of years ago, One of the books that I actually enjoyed was Echo's book. It's called The Big Book of Healing. And one of the exercises that she had you do is you actually talk to your inner child and you write a letter to yourself with your non-dominant hand, and that's your inner child writing. One of the questions you asked was, what is something that I can do for you that you didn't get to do?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Or something along that line. It was just a very neat exercise. And to be honest, doing it what it was for me,
What?
go smell the flowers.
Oh.
It's simple. Simple. I think the other one was to color. I love coloring. I still love coloring. So every now and again, I'll pull out a color book. Actually, Memorial Weekend, the kids got out the coloring books and they started to color. 23 years old and she was coloring. I loved it because she was coloring with one of the kids. You know what? And actually, it reminds me of Chris actually introduced us to our joy guides. And I know that you and I have meditation out there that you can find your joy guide.
Yeah, you did one for the secret tree, right?
I think so. I know there's a secret tree for your joy guide. So I think it's every now and again, I'll go back to that and just have a day for my inner child.
I love it. Oh, I did the play one. That's the one I did. Yes.
Yeah. So yours is slightly different, but I think you take them to a playground, don't you?
Yes. You have fun in a big bubble that comes from a horn, and you play on a swing. Yeah. So it's a lot of interactive play theme type of meditation.
I think we get so caught up in the rules and regulations of what we're supposed to do that we forget that we are human and, playing is part of it.
I agree. I think I even did that for the Fae one too. I think it was about play. I don't remember. That was a long time ago. Yeah. And those meditations are on our YouTube at Woo Woo Seekers channel.
Correct. That's not Come Get Woo Woo, it's Woo Woo Seekers.
Or they could go to our website, comegetwoowoo.com, and look for the meditations there. They're all listed. I'm glad you mentioned that because this was kind of not a dark, but what was the word you used earlier?
Yeah, it's just a lot deeper, which we have to be deep. I mean, we're talking about a shadow realm. It's all the things that we don't want to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could, ignorance is bliss, they always say, right? Well, sometimes ignorance can be bliss, but it's also a hindrance. It actually prevents you from doing stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and not all of these episodes can be rainbows and fairies either. So.
Yes, I love rainbows and fairies, though.
Me too. As we close today's episode, I want to remind you of where we began. The shadow realm isn't a dark place outside of you. It's not another dimension you fall into. It's just another layer of the human experience, overlapping the same world you already live in, holding what couldn't be held anywhere else. The shadow realm was never the thing standing between you and the life you wanted. It was the threshold you had to be willing to cross to get there. Every pattern that repeated was asking you to look. Every trigger that rose was one hand reaching back towards something unfinished. Every part of you that went quiet was waiting, not forever, but for you. Integration is how you answer that waiting. Not all at once, not without stumbling, not in a straight line or even a clear timeline, or according to anyone else's map of how this is supposed to go. But one honest moment at a time, one pause instead of a reaction, one softening instead of a wall, one decision to stay when everything in you wants to leave. That is the work. And that is the most human work there is. So instead of trying to fix your patterns or heal your triggers, this week, just try one small thing over the next few days. When that familiar surge happens, when someone snaps at you in a meeting, or a text doesn't come back, or you feel that sudden heavy surge that feels slightly too big for the moment, just pause. You don't have to change your reaction. You don't have to figure out the exact childhood wound that caused it. Just ask yourself that one question. When have I felt this before? Just letting that question sit there for a single breath is enough. It's like turning around in the waiting room and acknowledging the passenger who's been sitting there in the corner. You're just saying, I see you. We aren't reacting to just today, are we? That single moment of curiosity is where the boundary firms back up. That's where the armor starts turning back into choice. If any part of this helped you look at those heavy, repetitive pieces of your life with a little more tenderness and a little less fear, then we did what we came here to do. And I just love doing this episode, Becky. So what are we doing next week?
As we leave the shadow realm, we begin to understand something important. The shadow is never our enemy. It was the hidden self asking to be acknowledged, the wounded self asking to be understood, the forgotten pieces of us waiting in the dark for compassion instead of rejection. Because once you stop running from the shadow, something shifts. We begin seeing ourselves clearly, not just within, but around us. And that leads to our next episode, which is the mirror realm. The mirror where life reflects your inner world back to you through other people, relationships, attractions, conflict, admiration, jealousy, triggers, and emotional reactions. Because the people who affect us the most are often holding mirrors to the parts of ourselves we haven't fully seen yet. And here are the words for this week from our Woo Woo Seekers Journal, A Journey for Your Signs and Symbols, Book 1. Longing and love. See what rises, see what resonates. You can find the meditations for these words on our YouTube channel at Woo Woo Seekers. All these words can be found with direct links in our newsletter that can be found at comegetwoowoo.com, with new meditations released the first of every month. If you want to deepen your own journey, explore our meditation series, Sacred Tree and Soul's Garden, also available on our YouTube channel at Woo Woo Seekers. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for getting woo-woo with us today. If something sparked a memory, a message, or just made you smile, share it with a fellow seeker, because the journey is always better when you can grow together. Be sure to find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Woo Woo Seekers, so you can like, follow, and subscribe.
You can also follow us by visiting our website, comegetwoowoo.com. We are so much more than just another podcast. We're building a community of seekers just like us. We love hearing from you. If you've got signs, symbols, or stories that you want to share, email us at woowooseekers@gmail.com. Or any questions about today's episode, you can email us at comegetwoowoo@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and as always, come get woo-woo with us.